Hello, sweetie. You're
Hey,
so
sis.
pretty and cute. Okay, so
Hi, everybody.
we did a mid-season up until that point review of season 15.
Wow, it seems like 5 years ago.
And now the show is coming to an end
Yay!
this Thursday. Holy shit. Well, Anne, what did you think about the second to last episode, Inherit the Earth? Do you think it was a good episode or a bad episode?
That's actually a complicated question. The easy answer is it was a steaming pile of poo. However, it had so much potential where it could have been if they would have stretched this one episode, which I don't know about you guys. I know Ellen feels this way, but it feels like they jammed an entire season, at least the entire half season, into one 40-minute episode.
Yeah, I remember Roswell, and I don't know if the rest of you guys do
The original
either.
Roswell.
We might be a little old, and young whippersnappers probably don't know about, the Roswell that was on the WB in 1999, but they, basically fought with the network the whole time they were on air to basically keep existing.
Yeah.
Because it was Aaron Spelling, right?
Yes.
Yeah, Aaron Spelling hated genre television, and I think he's also behind the reason why Angel was canceled. Yeah.
I believe
Yeah.
so.
So, he just never wanted any horror, fantasy, any of that shit. He just hated and basically didn't want to be on the WB and a part of it.
Right.
Which Buffy launched the WB, and it probably wouldn't have been as successful without Buffy, but
Right.
Aaron Spelling, it's
He wasn't into it.
He probably didn't realize that. But anyway, the point of this ramble is the third season of Roswell is super rushed. Especially the last two episodes are so fast paced. There's so much crap crammed in there. And because they had another season, season 4 basically already planned, and broke it, and broke episodes, and had ideas for the show moving forward. But finally, and the fans tried to keep it alive. I remember because I was there, and signed petitions and all that shit. And I think we even sent the Tabasco bottle. Yeah,
that was a thing. Look it up. It was a cool thing.
Yes, it was. Right, so it was so rushed, but again, you can understand why it was, because they didn't have, the resource of time.
That's right.
To tell the stories that they wanted to tell with Roswell. So knowing that, you can be okay, it's not the best, but it's they tried. You can't really fault them. With this, with Supernatural, it's these assholes basically have had for fucking years now,
Literally
carte blanche
years,
to do basically whatever they want with Supernatural. It's been I've read it a couple times where whoever the showrunner is, and Robert Singer has said basically the network is very hands off with them at this point, and they trust
them.
Such
a cash cow,
because even though the ratings at this point aren't great, it's still, the fandom is still big, and they still spend money on the merchandise, and people still have good feelings about Supernatural, so the merch still sells, even if the ratings are under 1 million people at this point.
And even if people who had watched it for years have dropped off, which, let's be honest, is a big thing.
A lot of people.
People still buy the merch. They still find sentimentality in it, which, hell, I can't blame them. I still do, and I have mixed feelings about the show. But I still buy merch. I am those people,
Yeah,
so.
yeah, and, go to cons and whatever. So, My point is and they had the pandemic. You know, they had quarantine. The writers had time to be like, okay, we got 7 episodes left.
Yeah.
So, you know, we have these precious 7 episodes that will be the last episode Supernatural will ever have.
That's right.
Like, we really want to make this great. We really want to give this
Let's
ending.
Go out with a bang.
Yeah, an ending that's worthy of Supernatural, and it's, you know, big legacy, because it is a big fucking deal to be on TV for 15 goddamn years. Like,
yes.
That is not a small feat.
Right.
So it's like, let's do it up, let's make it right.
Yeah.
And looking at this last episode, Inherit the Earth, it's just
quite a mess.
It's almost amazing to me, where it's like they knew this would be the last season. They had all this extra time that, you know, the pandemic afforded them.
Yep.
And this is what they did with it.
And if you think about it, it was almost like the opposite of the writer's strike. Because writers didn't know what to do during the writer's strike. So this was the pandemic. And the writers literally had months of time where they could get together, they could speak, they could collaborate, they could ghost write episodes with one another.
And pass scripts back and forth.
Exactly. And yet we got, so I mean, technically, I guess, so we are saying it's the last 7 episodes, but the 7th episode, the one yet to come, is broken up into two parts. So technically, I guess it's really going to be 8 episodes. But in my mind, they used the first 6 episodes. They were fine. Like,
the whole Dean, the whole, like, Jack drama and Sam drama and Dean drama, I think was fucking stupid
and kind of useless
and just so contrived, because, and I'm not unique in pointing this out here, where it's like, Sam, honey, sweetheart, do you have a plan, you know, besides Jack's plan? Like,
what's your alternative?
What's your alternative to this? Because it's like, yeah, if Jack does this, he dies, and that's bad and whatever. But, you know that, like, everybody else on the whole planet is gonna die. And I get that you're, you know, sad about, like, if death takes over and, you know, she takes away, you know, your friends and Eileen, your lady love. Like, you know, again, that's bad.
Right.
But it's like 7 billion people, like, are gonna be dead.
Yes.
Like, if you just do nothing.
Right.
And, you know, it's like, you know, Sam is supposed to be, like, a very heroic character who sees the big picture. And he's just
comes up with the plans.
And he's just acting like an idiot. Like a sentimental idiot who only cares about, like, his feelings and his friends and stuff. You know, like, oh, my friends are going to be okay, so it's okay that, you know, the world ends. It's like, what?
Which is really pushing his character back.
And it's almost like the narrative, like, gaslights Dean into looking like the crazy one.
Yeah.
Where it's like, I mean, yeah, it's not great that Jack sacrifices himself, but it's like Dean, in my opinion, is the more right person in this situation.
Right.
And him pointing a gun at Sam and all that.
What?
Like,
why?
I thought that was the stupidest, most contrived bullshit. Like, I didn't buy it. And I know a bunch of people didn't buy it either.
Especially
like, we're not the only ones who didn't.
Where their characters, I mean, we have watched Supernatural for 15 seasons. We have stuck with these effers for 15 seasons. And you're telling me right before the end of the series, all of the work that the brothers have put in to turn their relationship to semi-healthy is just going to be thrown away in the almost last episode? That's absolute garbage. That is garbage. And frankly, it is very unfair to the characters of Sam and Dean. So why did you spend all of this time, especially over the last few seasons, which, let's be honest, were rough, and that's putting it very nicely. Why would you spend this time? Like, I would argue the best part of the last few seasons is that the brothers have grown closer and actually dropped a lot of their shit.
Yeah, they, like, the conflict is less, like, between, like, Sam and Dean and more like an outside force having conflict with them, which in some ways is, you know, maybe not great, but in some ways is really good because, I mean, I know I got beyond sick of them lying to one another constantly. Like, that got, you know, very
old.
Tiring and old, and it was good for them, you know, not to be in that position anymore. But
exactly. So then you're going to take all of that and just wipe it away and be like, oh yeah, okay, so Dean is not going to tell Sam about Jack, and then we're going to have Dean pull a gun on Sam. Like, what is even happening? Why? What is the purpose of this? Yeah. Why did we spend all this time in the last few seasons with them repairing their relationship, and you're going to tear that away? I really don't understand the motivation. I don't understand the purpose. I don't understand why the writers took one 40-minute episode and had some really great dynamite ideas that if they would have spanned the ideas in this one episode, really gone through them, torn into them, this last season could have been fantastic.
Yeah.
But they chose not to do that. And they gave us an episode where it felt like every scene should have been an episode. And after every scene, I was like, wait, what? Why is this happening? What are they doing? It was very confusing.
Yeah, very, very confusing. Where my big thing is, and like you said, and we're talking about Inherit the Earth. That's what Anne was talking about at the end there. Like, looking at each scene and being like, this should have been an episode.
Yes.
And they could have worked, you know, like Billy's plan with Jack, and, you know, Billy's plan to, like, you know, become God or whatever. Like, they could have worked that in there. You know, they could have had, and we'll get into it more later, but they could have had the empty, like, you know, in there, and, like, you know, plotting with the boys and plotting with Billy. And, you know, Michael, like, pops up early, and they're like, you know, Michael, we know, you know, you're not good with us, we're not good with you, but, you know, we need your help. You know, God is gonna, you know, destroy the world.
Yeah.
And, you know, you know, and that includes Adam, because it seemed like, you know, Michael and Adam were friends and, you know, had gotten close, and you know, maybe that gets to Michael, and then he defies God. And, like, that stuff with Michael and Chuck, and Michael being, like, then, you know, regretful that he betrayed Chuck and all of that. Like, that could have been great.
That could have been an entire story arc.
Yeah. Like, that could have been legitimately interesting, poignant, moving, you know, everything. It could have been great. And then it was that. And, you know, this whole manipulation that Sam and Dean do to power up Jack, like, they could have even sown the seeds into Michael. You know, when Lucifer pops up again, they could be like, you know, Michael, like, even though you were the dutiful son, you know, God never really cared about you, you know, never really loved you as much as he loved Lucifer. And they could have also used that, you know, to manipulate Michael.
Right.
There's so much that could have been done. They could have even, like, rehashed Michael's relationship with Sam, and how Sam has changed from season 5, and how, you know, like, there's so much that they could have, you know, made hints to in previous episodes, previous seasons, and then, like, felt like they were giving, putting a bow
Right. And
on
then
it and giving it a real sense of closure.
So I know a lot of people have like differing thoughts about Lucifer and Lucifer's character, but let's face it, Mark P. I don't know how to pronounce his last name.
I think that's right.
Maybe, yes, is a fantastic actor, and before they ruined his character, was really amazing as Lucifer.
Yeah.
So when they brought him on for what, like 3 minutes of screen time total? Whatever. When they brought him on again, I was like, oh, this is gonna be cool. Somehow we're gonna like tie this in and make this a thing. And then he was on and then he was gone, and I was like, okay, this again was pointless. And they could have taken an entire episode, Lucifer, God, Michael. That could have been a whole thing. They could have talked about their shit. They could have hashed things out. They could have peppered death in, peppered the empty in. It could have been a whole thing for the mythos. But instead of taking that opportunity, they gave us literally a few minutes of him dinking around and then just leaving the episode. Pointless.
And then coming
upset.
back to die.
Yeah. Like, come on.
Or no, actually, I think Lucifer dies in that same scene. He's like introduced.
They didn't even.
He's introduced. He fights
It's
with
all
Michael.
in the bunker, yeah.
And then Michael kills him. And
Yeah.
it was like, that was, they dropped a bridge on him.
Yeah.
They dropped a fucking bridge on Lucifer. Is what
it's
that
like,
was.
Why ruin his character and then
Well,
bring
even
him
more.
back? Like,
Ruin his character even
Exactly.
more than they did in
Exactly.
season 14.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like, why? Why do any of this?
What was the purpose?
And one thing you and I talked about, this is something that, like, really made me upset, is that, because both Ann and I are much bigger Dean fans than we are Sam fans.
I like Sam more than she does.
Yeah, but anyway.
Neither here
Not
nor
that I
there.
hate Sam or anything. But anyway. The moment with Dean and Chuck, where, like, Chuck is like, oh, I'm gonna get killed by, like,
this
the
makes me
ultimate...
mad. This makes me
The
mad.
ultimate killers, Sam and Dean Winchester. And Dean's like, that's not who I am. That's not who we are. And it's like, bitch, you did not earn this. This was not earned. Like, I want to, like, strangle,
like that.
fucking Andrew Dad. Just, crush his goddamn larynx. When, I think about what this moment should have been. Because, like, Dean... Yeah, he has, like...
Dean.
Yeah.
Dean.
Yeah, Dean has, like, Shinji Ikari level, fucked upness.
Yeah.
And a lot of that is obviously tied to his idea of, like, being daddy's blunt little instrument. And that's, been a huge part of his psychology since, ever since he started hunting.
Yeah.
I don't know if we get, like, an exact, like, date of
Timeline.
when he, like, starts, researching with John, let alone actually, helps him aid in hunting. But, he was maybe, like, 12 years old. So since he was 12-year-old, at least, like, this has been part of his psychology.
Yeah.
Where he can say, no, I'm not, just a killer. I was made for love, and I was made for good things to happen to me.
Yeah.
And, I should, I can move on past this, and I can maybe someday be happy. Like, that could have been beautiful. It could have been.
Should have been.
It could have been, like, the best moment in the show ever.
Yeah.
Ever. Because of how, like, traumatized Dean is for, him to have, like, this amazing poignant moment of, like, maybe my trauma doesn't need to define me forever, which could be, a great message to the audience, especially, for people who have had, like, some of the
Past
worst shit
traumas in
happened to
their
them
life, yeah.
that, you know, anyone can imagine. Yeah, like, that could have been great.
Yeah.
And it should have been great.
Yeah.
And I'm so mad that it's just like, it's just nothing.
Yeah.
It's just nothing, really.
And
where,
Dean's-
you know, I'm not even sure, like, that's what that moment was for.
Right.
Like, I don't even, like, because I've seen, you know, GIF sets of people putting together mostly Destiel shippers because, you know, in the last episode, and we'll get to talking about that in despair, Cass, of course, said, oh, you know, you're just, you know, you're not made just to kill people, Dean. Like, you don't know how lovely you are. Like, you know, people have put together, like, maybe Cass saying these things to Dean, you know, has made him realize that, yes, he is, you know, meant for, like, good and lovely and wonderful things.
Dean-
But, like, there was no through line to that.
Right.
There was no, you know, connection to that.
Yeah.
Where it's like, what is making Dean say these things now?
Yeah.
Was it Cass's love confession, or was it something else? You know, we don't even get that. And, like, speaking of, you know, shit, because you were saying in your ramble how things should have been, like, built up
Right.
to you know, to Chuck, like, you know, being depowered and just being a loser now.
Yeah.
Like, that's something else that should have been built to, you know, Dean having his,
There was
like,
all the
oh,
potential
I deserve
there.
to be loved. I
Yeah.
deserve, you know, wonderful and lovely and great things.
Yeah.
You know, I don't have to be John Winchester's
And
son
two-
forever. I can, you know, be happy, maybe
Yeah.
you know.
And
That,
things have happened to Dean, and part of Sam and Dean not lying to one another and actually having, like, a decent relationship with one another is a part of them both growing as characters. And Dean has had things which we know, like, he doesn't randomly sleep with chicks anymore. Like, he has more, you know, self-worth and has grown as a character. So this seems like the moment, with all of the time and all of the steps the writers have actually taken to get to this place where Dean says, I am a worthwhile human, and yes, I kill things, but that is not me. That should have been, like, his swan song. That should have been, like, his power moment. But instead, it just fell so short.
and kind of flat.
Yeah.
And like I said, there was no through line to really, like, make that moment as, like, as it should have been.
They
like, it
could
should have
have
been a punch in the gut
Yeah.
at that moment.
They could have done, like, flashbacks, because we got the, like, 10-minute flashback scene after the episode happened, which, fine, whatever. Like, that was lovely, and it is nice to look back when the show was good. But they could have easily put in a flashback scene of Dean, you know, emoting as a character. They could have done that and then had that happen. Why didn't they? Why didn't they use this beautiful, touching, amazing moment that we deserve? We deserve that. And yet they're just like, and, you know, Jensen is amazing and a great actor, and he says, you know, I am not a killer. Well, why didn't we get the surrounding around it? Why didn't we get music, a slow push in, some flashbacks? Why did we get this shit version of something that we have been waiting for many years?
Right. So, and, you know, bringing everybody back. Jack bringing, like, the world back. Like, I was saying to you, because we actually watched the episode together, which we don't usually do because, you know, we live in different houses.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and I was saying to Anne, I'm like, think about, like, how great and, like, beautiful this moment could have been. And another thing, like, they should have, like, built up on, like, Chuck just, like, rapturing everyone and, like, taking everybody away. Like, it should have been, you know, like, the hunters start to go missing. Like, at first,
Yeah.
it's just
Mystery.
the ones...
Mystery.
It's just the ones from, other
There's-
worlds.
Yeah.
But it's like, maybe it's Billy doing this because we know, like, Billy wants to, put everybody, like, back and, like, reorder the universe. Which, by the way, I'm not really against Billy doing that.
No,
like,
me either.
That really doesn't seem like a hugely evil and malicious thing.
No.
Which could honestly kind of make us on Billy's side.
Yeah.
Like, it's bad she's killing characters we like, even though we don't give a fuck about the AU hunters, whatever.
No.
But, for Sam and Dean, they care about these people.
Yes, right.
But, like, we can, we could have understood Billy's motivations because of how many times, Sam and Dean and Cass and Jack have, tinkered and fucked with, like, forces of the universe.
Yeah.
Like, that episode in 6th season where Death talks about, like,
Yeah.
when Dean got Sam's soul back. Like,
Right,
how...
right.
It's no fun when you're the one cleaning up the mess. Like, they could have brought that back with Billy.
Right.
And right, like, so, like, maybe it's Billy, disappearing the hunters.
Could have been a whole
but
episode.
Then, or like a whole arc. Like,
Yeah.
it could have been over, like, three episodes, I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then, like, maybe, like, Dean walks out or Sam walks out and everybody and everything's just gone.
Yeah.
Like, how, like, damn, that moment could have been and should have been, like, what, like, it still could have happened at the end of, Despair.
Yeah,
at
point.
15, 18.
Yeah.
Like, it could have happened then.
Yeah.
But all of that, like, people disappearing, because, like, when Donna disappeared in that episode, I was like, what? She's like from Earth 1.
Yeah.
So, like, why did she just disappear? Like, that was a, what?
Yeah, it
like,
was confusing.
It shouldn't have been like, what the fuck? It should have been like, Donna
Yeah.
disappeared. Like, it
Yeah.
should have been like, oh shit, like,
Yeah, we should have cared more about it.
Yeah,
Like,
versus just having been confused, which,
Yeah.
which I wasn't. I'm sure other people were like, what?
why is she gone
Yeah,
now?
yeah,
This
like,
doesn't fit.
it should have been a build-up.
Yeah.
As well. So, Jack build it, bringing everybody back, like, then should have been, like, this huge, like, touching, beautiful thing where we're like, oh, the world is back and everyone's fine again, and oh, isn't that so nice?
One of the major problems with this episode, or I'm sorry, with this season, is the whole build-up versus payoff is way off. Like, they are not, there is no, like, oh yeah, building this thing up, building this thing up, building this thing off, paying it off. Like, that's not happening.
Yeah, Anne and I talked about, like, a couple of times, one, how this season does not feel, like, I wouldn't know this was the last season of the show.
Unless I was told.
Yeah, because, just think about season 5 with, Kripke and Ben Edlund, they...
Miss you guys.
Yes, how they organized that together,
Yeah.
because you can't... Ben Edlund was very big in breaking season 5 and season 4, and he actually ghost wrote Lucifer Rising with Kripke. But anyway, so where it's like, I think after Abandoned Hope, which was 510.
Yeah.
Like, after that, every episode was about Lucifer and Sam and
Right.
Dean and
Right.
Michael
The push.
and the angels
The
and
push
like
of the
just,
season.
Just like the key is in the ignition and we're going. But like this season, it felt like they put the key in it like
Yeah.
and there are mechanics like tinkering with the engine, and then finally here at Inherit the Earth, like the car is going and they're going 100 miles an hour as
to get everything done. Hurry,
and shit's falling off the car.
Yeah.
And, it even gets more depressing when you think about, Buffy, the Vampire Slayer, and every season of Buffy, and how, fuck it, let's just take, like, season 2 of Buffy, which isn't even a finale season,
Obviously,
and was
yeah.
never meant
Season
to
2.
be a finale season.
Right.
Like, everyone knew season 3
Was gonna happen.
Where, like, how... What episode was Innocence? I don't remember what...
Either 12 or 13.
Right. So
Mid-season.
12 or 13, Buffy and Angel have sex, which, you know, Buffy and Angel getting closer was, happened in the first part of the season.
Right.
And then it builds to the moment where they have sex and he becomes jealous, and then all the episodes after that have Angel
Deal with
with
that.
and jealous in it, and deal with him being evil and Buffy's guilt. And, you know, because Angelus is so evil, he destroys the world.
Right.
Or he makes a plan to destroy the world with,
Drew and Spike.
yeah, and Akathla.
Akathla.
Fuck
Yeah.
me. So, right, like, you know, it's like, build. Oh, Angel is, you know, has his soul back and Buffy needs to kill him, and it's
horrible.
It's so and, like, you know, again, like, the momentum that was in season 2 of Buffy,
Yeah.
which wasn't even a finale season of a show and never meant to be,
Yeah.
has more, like, punching power than this season of 15 has had. And it's just, like, it's frustrating, it's depressing, it's goddamn sad.
Yeah.
And, like, you know, I'm not surprised it's this way by now, because Dab is a terrible showrunner, but it doesn't keep it from, you know, from being any less frustrating and anger-inducing.
It's very true. And it's difficult because, you know, well, I would say just kind of Supernatural overall has had some good seasons. It's had probably one great season. It's had some phenomenal episodes. Like, some episodes of Supernatural, just, like, I will carry with me. Like, they are so good. But it just is so depressing after all this time, after the attachment I have to the characters, and all the horrible things the writers have done to the characters I love. And some deaths that make me want to punch somebody in the face. But all of this, and this is the ending I get? This is a crap ending. No, it's not a Lost ending. I can't imagine it'll be anywhere near as shit-tastic as Lost. There's literally, well, I shouldn't say literally nothing the writers can do, because, you know, we're here. But almost nothing. I don't think it's going to be a Game of Thrones. Dear God, I hope not. But it's probably number 3 for me so far of worst endings of a television show I was attached to. And unless they do something in the last 2 episodes, which honestly, I'm not even sure what they're going to do with the last 2 episodes. Because we're at a point now where old God, Chuck, is basically useless. Jack is obviously in power. So are the last 2 hours going to be them going around and hugging and kissing their friends? Like, maybe. And I guess that's fine. But, like, what is the finality in this? Like, where is the pin going to go in Supernatural? I'm honestly not sure.
And, you know, well, we haven't really talked about, like, Destiel and that whole confession
Oh, yeah,
yet.
okay, so let's do that.
Well...
Love you, Cass.
You know, I have,
R.I.P.
And, you know, this will tie into our predictions of the last episode, where... okay, so... I have mixed feelings about this, because I know, like, a lot of Destiel shippers were elated by Cass's confession in despair mostly because, and Destiel shippers, and I know this because I am one, have, like, a big chips on our shoulder about, you know, being told that, you know, we're delusional, that, you know, the subtext in that one episode in season 12 with, like, that crazy guy who, you know, killed that that human lady's daughter because he was obsessed with her.
Yeah.
And he's like, I'm going to kill your human weakness by cutting it out. And, he's going to Dean to kill him because, Cass is Dean's human weakness, just like, this lady's that he was in love / obsessed with was his.
Right.
And, like, we're not supposed to think,
Draw the conclusion.
Yeah, that they're...
The obvious conclusion.
That Cass is in love with Dean. Like, we're not supposed to think that because, some people are so determined, are so anti-Destiel that, like, they're like, nuh-uh, that's not, like, romantic subtext, even though it totally fucking is. So, like, the shit that Destiel shippers have dealt with for years, for 12 years at this point, holy crap.
A lot of years.
To get, even though I think there's some plausible deniability because Cass never said he was in love with Dean, just that he loved Dean, which, is a little fuzzy.
Murky, I guess.
But anyway, and his moment of true happiness. God damn it, fuck you, Robert Burns. I know some people love him, and Destiel shippers especially love him for this, but the man does not have a thought that Joss Whedon did not have, 10 years previously. Like this.
Tying directly back to Surprise and Innocence. The reason why Angel turned into Angelus is because he had his true moment of happiness and had sex with Buffy, so that's why he went evil.
His one great love,
That's right. AKA Dean and Cass.
Yeah, right. Right. But anyway, let's move beyond that. We'll be here all day if it's just me bitching about Robert Burns. But anyway.
Also, I understand Ellen's hate of Robert Burns.
Not hate, criticism.
Criticism of Robert Burns. I have mixed feelings about him.
But anyway.
Continue.
Anyway, so, right, like, Destiel shippers to, like, get that textual canon is, was very exciting, was very elating for many people. Because, again, like, I've, like, sort of stepped away from Destiel meta and all that, and I'm really not as big into the Supernatural fandom as I used to be. But I can understand the bullshit that many have dealt with, like seeing them subtextually and canonically as, having romantic feelings for one another. So, getting that moment was a big deal, especially because so many Destiel shippers are not straight and not cis themselves.
Right.
Which, that's also why it's a big deal.
Right.
So, I get it. But from a writing standpoint, there are problems. There are many, many, many fucking problems. Number one being, this moment, like, is all based on shit that was written, like, 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Dean and Cass have been very sparsely written in Dab's era.
Right.
For the most part.
Right.
Where, like, and honestly, Dean has not been Cass's main motivation for
a long
doing
time,
stuff.
Yeah.
It's
because
Jack. It was shifted to Jack a while ago.
Because he became more of a father and had to take on new responsibilities.
All of this feels, a little bit like it's coming out of nowhere because it didn't have the proper build-up. Now, the proper build-up...
This is our theme. Build-up, payoff.
The proper build-up was there because, Ben Edlund wrote it. So if you watch the show, you know that it's there. But, like, that was all years ago.
It was a long time ago.
You need to, remind the audience of that shit.
Lines.
Yeah.
Through lines. That's a thing.
That's our vocabulary, word of the day. Although it's 2 words, but it's like one concept.
We can hyphenate it. Yeah.
It's one concept within writing through lines.
Right.
But
it's needed. It's important for storytelling.
But yeah, so yeah, no through line. Also bury your gays,
Yes.
you know, which
Yeah.
is
We were not surprised that Cass made his confession and then croaked. But
I have thought this would happen in my head for years now. For years.
Yeah.
I've imagined this scenario.
yeah, frankly, it was the easiest way out, so to speak, for them. I mean, they wanted it. Seemingly this is what happened, and I could be wrong, writers, because I'm not inside your brains. However, it seems like you, the writers of Supernatural, wanted to get across to Dean and let Dean know that he is loved, truly loved by Cass, which, by the way, Dean already knows that. He just wouldn't, open himself up to it like he needs to.
Yeah.
And then that confession of love leads us maybe to him saying at the end of the last episode that he is a worthy human being and not just a warrior and not just a killer.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm guessing the writers were trying to do. But as we've already spoken of,
There's no through line.
there's no through line. How are we to know for sure that that's what the writers wanted to do? In my opinion, they shaped it the way that they did because they wanted us to think, well, okay, so that's great. Cass said that he loves Dean, but if you are not cool with Dean being gay or bi or whatever, or even Cass's love of Dean, you can be like, well, he just loves him as a brother. He doesn't maybe love him as a lover, even though that's obvious. We're here.
We know
We
that.
know. We're watching it. It's obvious. So it's almost like they're kind of trying to give some of the audience what they want, while being like, the rest of the audience, it's okay if you don't see it like this. They're not committing to something. Destiel is something that we are not crazy for believing in because it's there and we've seen it and we know it's there. And you're maybe giving that to us writers, kind of.
Which, like I said, and I said this to you yesterday, like the risk with Destiel has never been
That's right.
Cass saying to Dean, I love you, I'm in love with you.
Right.
I think about you at night.
Right.
When I think about you, I touch myself.
Right.
Like,
Right.
None of that has ever been a risk because the risk and the, importance of Destiel, and you can see this in pretty much every Destiel fic ever written, is not Cass loving Dean.
Right.
It's Dean loving Cass.
Right.
It's Dean being like, I'm worthy of this great love that this person is giving to me.
Right.
I am accepting myself as I truly am, which most people who ship Destiel think he's bisexual. I accept myself, as a bisexual man.
Yeah.
I'm capable of receiving this love and believing that this person really loves me. And I'm capable of then giving that back to them.
Right.
Like, I believe that they love me, and, I believe that I'm worthy of this, and all of that, so, I should be together with this person. But, like, without any of that, it's, like, great to have that canonical acknowledgement from Cass's side and all that.
Yes.
But it's only half a story.
Right.
And to me, it feels like pandering to Destiel shippers, virtue signaling about representation, possibly.
Yeah.
And just not really delivering on the promise of Destiel. I mean, if you're happy about despair, good for you. I don't want to take anything away from you.
No.
But for me, it's like
I just feel like
they
it's a
did
half
it.
win.
They did it in the safe way.
Yeah.
They didn't do it in the risky way, in the way that it should have been done.
Right.
Let's talk about then our predictions for the end.
Okay. So my ideal ending would be exactly what you said. Dean accepting, acknowledging. Of course, this means that they have to bring Castiel back again, which let's just take a moment for this and say if they don't bring Cass back, the anger I will feel will be
immense.
Immense, yes. Because there's no way they shouldn't bring him back.
Yeah, I mean, Jack is fucking God now, and he thinks of Cass as his daddy.
Yeah.
Is he just gonna leave him in the goddamn empty? Like, that would be bullshit.
No.
Like,
No.
you know...
No.
That would be garbage.
No.
Garbage.
Yeah. So, when they bring Cass back, then Dean and Cass should have time together, should talk about their shit, and Dean needs to say to Cass, I love you too. That's how I want it to end. Also, you know, whatever, like Eileen coming back. She's a lovely character. She's actually one of the, you know, characters we have left that's like actually had some development, is really, I think, well put together character wise, not like, you know, her character, you know what I mean, and is like the match for Sam in my opinion.
Yeah.
So Sam should get her. I mean, she should get him. That should be a thing. They should be together. So that would be happiness in my opinion for Sam, and I think probably anyone who's watched the show. Jack, I don't really know like what that's going to look like, what his reign. He said he was going to be hands off, so I don't really know how that translates like just in the canon really. So that'll be interesting to see what they're going to do with that. But then pretty much like if I would get, you know, Sam being with Eileen and Dean being with Cass, perfect. Streamers happy. Still not happy with how the rest of season 15 went, but I would be satisfied with that ending. Pretty much anything else, well, yeah.
So this is how...
That's the fantasy ending. We'll see what actually happens.
All right, this is how I think it's going to go with Dean and Cass / Destiel. Here's my prediction. So... throughout the episode, Cass is going to be dead. Maybe Sam remarks on it. I think he probably does. They might even bring up, like, the conversation where, you know, Sam is like, well, he said he loved you, and Sam's like, well, how do you feel about that? And Dean just doesn't have an answer. And, you know, maybe even Sam and Eileen... you know, like, you know, are back together, and, you know, Dean, like, is looking happy at them, but then he turns kind of sad and melancholy, you know, that's so sad. And then, at the end of the episode, you know, Dean is in his room, and, you know, this is after him and Sam have had this, like, conversation about, like, brotherly love, and it's gonna be, like, sparkles. It's gonna be, like, you know, smooshy.
Yeah.
And all that. And, you know, Dean goes into his room, and he pulls out his pictures, and Dean is going through them. And, maybe a song plays, maybe it's just Tears in My Beers, or, you know, a standard from That's the Name of a Piece of Music from the show.
I know.
Or, you know, maybe a standard piece of music like that, and you know, Dean is looking through his pictures of, you know, you know, it's not just like him and Sam and, you know, John and Mary, it's, you know, Bobby, the real Bobby, not the AU one, you know, Jody and Donna, and, you know, Claire, and maybe even, you know, the other girls whose name escaped me at the moment.
And Charlie.
And you know, Charlie is in pictures with them, and, you know, maybe Eileen and Sam, like, there's one of them in there, and, you know, like, and, you know, Dean gets to one with him and Cass, and maybe Sam is in the picture too, but, like, Cass is looking at Dean with, you know, like, just this, you know, love and affection in his eyes, and you know, Dean is just like, looking at the picture, like, really intently, just, like, looking at it. And, maybe the music that played during Cass's confession
Sure.
then, plays in that moment, too. And, Dean is just, like, looking really, sad and longing at this picture. And then his phone rings, and he picks it up. And it's, hello, Dean. And bam, cut to black, and that's it. And that's how Destiel ends. Where, like, and the show forever ends, where they're like, well, did Dean, return, Cass's feelings, like, we don't know, or
yeah,
where, like, they make it, like, subtexty enough from Dean's side for us to be like, yeah, okay, he loves Cass, and then they got together, and then they were happy, but, like, it leaves enough plausible deniability for everyone else to be like, no, they weren't together romantically.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I could easily see that happening. Also, it, like, solves the problem, because Misha supposedly wasn't in the last 2 episodes, according to, like, the reports on set, because quarantine, like, they have to be very careful with who's there. Allow. And, like, Misha then physically isn't in the episode. He just, calls Dean, because, Jack has brought him back to life and back to Earth again. So, yeah. I'm mostly predicting, like a happy end, like a peaceful end.
I don't really understand why it needs to be 2 episodes, though.
But maybe,
whatever. We'll see.
Maybe one is only like a retrospective with Jensen and Jared and a few other people talking about how much they love the show and they love the fans and they love the directors.
Love is love.
Yeah. And they just vomit love all over one another, and then we have the episode.
That could be.
But yeah, like, I could see that being, like, the end of the show, the end of Destiel, like, no, like, there's no ever actual, like, text from Dean. It's just, like, a lot of staring, a lot of longing. Like, Sam asks him an open-ended question about, well, how do you feel about, Cass saying he loves you, and, Dean just gets a little... But, yeah, I don't know if they'll be ballsy enough to do it, is the point. And, there are a lot of people who actively hate Destiel, as well as, just dislike it.
Right.
So, they might not want to... totally alienate and piss off those fans. So.
It's true.
Do you have any other predictions for the last episode?
John.
Oh, yeah. Sam and Eileen. I think Eileen is coming back. Like, there's no way they're leaving her dead. She's gonna come back. They're gonna be together. In my opinion, that was the right choice. In your opinion, it was the right choice.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
I feel like somehow we're probably going to have some kind of message from John and Mary. I feel like that's going to somehow...
That could happen. With Jack being God, he can make that shit happen. Yeah. Fuck it. Like, the pair of them might even be in the episode and, hug Sam and Dean and shit. And be like, oh, you saved the world and, the world's going to be better now because, Jack is going to be the Belificus,
yes.
You know what word I'm trying? Fuck, I can't think of words. Kind and just ruler
yes.
of the universe.
Yes.
He's
very
not,
benevolent.
Yeah,
loving.
Benevolent.
Yes.
That's the word
that
I was...
was it.
Yeah. Just, he's gonna recreate angels because remember this season when that was an issue, not enough angels being in heaven was, like, brought up as, like, oh yeah, Kevin. Yeah, Kevin's still, like, can't go to heaven. Yeah. Jack will fix it. So, that might even be the first scene.
That could be.
That could be the cold
tying
opening.
Up the loose ends.
Jack going to Kevin, and being like, you can go to heaven now.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah.
Yeah. Maybe we'll get something with Rowena. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe not. Maybe like a conversation between her and Jack about how like demons are going to like still do their demony thing,
right?
And, you need both light and dark forces in the universe, and
I could see that being a part of it too.
How like the two of them having like this Neil Gaiman-esque conversation about like balance and shit, how they're basically going to be like good with one another, or as good as two opposing forces can be. So yeah, I could see that.
Yeah.
So yeah, basically tying things up, making it as rainbowy and sparkly as Supernatural could ever be.
Yeah.
I'm like pretty much I've always thought like we would have a peaceful ending for the boys, if not a happy ending for them, and I think we might get a legitimately happy ending at this point.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, that's it. I guess our closing saying we have hope for the last episode being something satisfying and not stupid. But this last episode, Inherit the Earth, was incredibly disappointing and frustrating and shit.
Yes.
On a couple levels.
Yes.
But it's not like I was expecting much better from Andrew Dabb. Because even though, Ross Lemming and Brad Buckner wrote it, the showrunner is the person who decides what character and story beats are going in each episode of each season. Like, that's their job. Like, a showrunner runs the show. Yeah, is the story leader.
Yeah.
Is the one who's supposed to have vision.
Right.
So all that shit being piled into this episode, don't blame Brad Buckner and Ross Lemming, even though they're shit writers and we all know. Like, that's not their fault.
They frankly had a lot of work to do.
That was completely Andrew Dabb's fault.
Right.
I mean, the dialogue being bad was, Buckner and Ross Lemming's fault, but the fact that it was all packed together was totally Andrew Dabb and Robert Singer's fault. That was his folly, their folly. So yeah, that's it. Thank you for listening to this very long video. Sayonara and auf Wiedersehen.
Peace.